It's Thursday, the 8th of January 2026. Here at the Met Office, we have just issued a red wind warning for much of Cornwall, Isles of Scilly, and in this area we're expecting between 4 p.m. today and 11 p.m. this evening, wind gusts to reach 80 to 100 mile per hour. Those kinds of wind speeds are extreme even for this windy part of the country. We haven't seen a wind forecast like this for a long time. And these will be damaging, disruptive winds. We're talking about the potential for power cuts, interruptions to mobile services, damage to buildings and dangerous conditions around coast with large waves as well as flying debris. So the advice is stay indoors, do not attempt to travel in this region where there is a red warning in force, and be prepared for the potential for power cuts and disruption to all sorts of travel, not just during the warning period, but of course continuing afterwards. The red warning is valid from 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. across much of Cornwall, but there's this yellow warning as well for wind gusts along coastal counties of England into the southwest as well as southwestern parts of Wales, and it's in this area where we're expecting wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour and in some exposed spots 70 miles an hour. What's going on? Well, this is Storm Goretti. It's also going to bring disruption to northern France. That's why the French named it, but it will bring further disruption into central parts of the UK from rain and snow. There's a lot going on with this storm, and as we speak, it's an intensifying area of low pressure. It is deepening as it is currently approaching the UK. Here it is at midday, and if I play this forward, you can see how it interacts with the jet stream helping to spin it up, add more isobars into the centre of the low, and by the time the low pressure centre arrives into the southwest of England, we've got a lot of isobars, particularly on the western flank of that low, and that's where the strongest winds are expected, hence the yellow and red wind warnings. Now, not only do we have strong winds, but we've got the risk of heavy snowfall in places, and that's because this storm, whilst it contains Atlantic wind and rain and a lot of mild air represented by these colours, it bumps into the Arctic air in place across the UK. So it's a multi-hazard event we're talking about. Different parts of the UK will be affected by different things. The wind, the greatest concern because of the red warning for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. Channel Islands also likely to be very severely affected by the winds from Storm Goretti as well as northern parts of France. But elsewhere across the country, the wind's not so much of a concern. It's more about the rain and the snow. So I'm going to be going to a bit more further detail in the next few minutes on all those aspects of the storm. But let's take a look at first at the winds. And what you can see first of all from the winds is that when I play this forward during the rest of Thursday, and this is a wind gust graphic. I'll rewind a touch there. There's a very narrow swathe of the strongest wind gusts. So this is midday as Gerretti is deepening, and you can see how the wind gusts strengthen during the next few hours, so that by 4 p.m, rewinding a little bit there, by 3 p.m. there, the very strongest winds are starting to approach the Isles of Scilly. Here's the key. Anything coloured in is above 50 mile per hour wind gusts, and so through the Bristol Channel there into south and southwest Wales, the coasts of Cornwall into Devon as well, starting to see 50 mile per hour plus gusts during the next few hours. But very quickly, that swathe, that very narrow swathe of the most intense winds are likely to arrive 5 p.m. into the Isles of Scilly, into western parts of Cornwall. Now, it's possible that the low pressure centre will move through parts of Cornwall and Devon, and if that happens, winds will fall light briefly. But then, as the low pressure centre moves through, suddenly the winds will whip up in the space of half hour, an hour or so, from 30 mile per hour wind gusts to 80 to 100. And you can see there, as it moves through between 4 p.m, 8 p.m, 9 p.m, that swathe of 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts expected to go through Isles of Scilly, western parts of Cornwall. And it's in this area where there is that danger of life, red warning, the risk of some very serious impacts. These kinds of winds haven't been predicted for western parts of Cornwall for a long, long time. It's not something we've seen for a long time here at the Met Office. Then that swathe of very strong winds pushes into northern parts of France and the Channel Islands, so expect disruption across northern France and the Channel Islands as well during the evening, before eventually the winds start to come down across the southwest as well as southwest Wales. So the winds, one of the most dangerous things is that rapid escalation between not very windy at all to very intense winds. So don't be fooled if the winds fall light for a time during the afternoon or early evening, because that very narrow, intense swathe of winds is on the way. That moves through, and it will also contain a lot of rainfall. It's already raining heavily across the southwest and other parts of southern UK. That rain could well hamper issues as well in the south and southwest. Now, the mild air that is associated with Storm Goretti, that is increasingly confined to the south of the UK, and further north, whilst it may start off as rain, it will eventually turn to snow as the Arctic air to the north of the UK mixes in with this band of rain. This is 3 p.m. You can see the rain moving north through the Midlands into much of Wales, approaching the Peak District, and at this stage we're starting to see the rain turn to snow across higher parts of Wales, the Peak District for example, some whites coming through across the West Midlands. Of course, the sun going down, the air cooling off, and the heavier the rain is and the longer it lasts, the more the atmosphere cools down enough that much of this precipitation will end up as snow. But it is very finely balanced. It's going to be one of those situations where there is highly variable snow cover across the southern half of the UK. Now, we've seen a lot of snow across parts of Scotland and indeed Northern Ireland this week so far. But this storm, Storm Goretti, expected to impact England and Wales rather than Scotland and Northern Ireland. And that's why the focus for this video is on England and Wales. Further north, we'll continue to see some sleet and snow showers here and there, but mostly it is a dry end to the day for Scotland and Northern Ireland. All the action happening further south. Now I'm going to play this a bit further forward into the evening, and you can see that area of white becoming more extensive across much of Wales, the Midlands. I think Cardiff, mostly rain. Further north into the valleys, upland parts of Wales, a lot of snow starting to develop during the evening and overnight. Likewise for the Midlands. Could be a very wintry scene for Birmingham eventually, even if it starts off as snow. The snow also affecting the Peak District, but perhaps staying mostly patchy sleet and snow or even rain for the likes of Merseyside, Liverpool, Manchester, those areas not within the yellow and amber snow warnings. Further south, we've got some heavy showers as the winds start to come down overnight and some very wet weather continuing. But as the worst of the winds die down, well, the impacts start to emerge from the snowfall, much of Wales and the Midlands. And we can see how much snow we're expecting on this graphic. This will show the 12-hour snow totals up to tomorrow morning. This is the amount of snow coming out of the sky. And although details may change slightly for specific parts of this area, it gives a broad idea of a little bit of snow cover there for southwestern parts of the country as Storm Goretti pulls away, as cold red digs down, most likely parts of Dartmoor and Exmoor, perhaps the Blackdown Hills, patchy, small amounts of snow elsewhere through central southern England into the East Midlands, but it's really through much of Wales, particularly mid and North Wales, into the West Midlands, up towards the Peak District. This area where some very large snow amounts is expected to fall, 5 to 15 centimetres widely, up to 30 centimetres. That's what these reds are showing, up to 30 centimetres over higher parts of mid and North Wales into northern parts of the Midlands, the Peak District. So Derbyshire could be some significant disruption by the morning, for example, because of the snow cover. Meanwhile, very little snow there for lower lying parts of northwest England, as well as towards the south and southeast. So we do have snow warnings as well. I've mentioned the wind warnings. Here's a summary of the snow warnings. And we continue to have snow and ice warning across the north and northeast of the UK. Mostly it's slippery surfaces that is the main concern here because of the antecedent conditions. But further south, this yellow warning and the amber warning representing where further snow is expected to accumulate during the next 24 hours. Thursday evening, much of the rain that arrives likely to turn to snow in these warning areas. And it's within this amber warning area where there's the highest risk of disruption from snow. 15 centimetres in places, perhaps as much as 30 over higher parts of mid and North Wales through the Midlands into the Peak District. That's why there's an amber warning. As I say, very patchy, very variable cover in snow. Even if you've got a warning in your location, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed snow. It's just an indication of where the greatest risk of impacts from snow is to be had. But yeah, it's central parts of the UK, whilst further south, as I said at the start of the forecast, it's all about the wind. A broad yellow warning for the rest of Thursday because of the risk of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, and in some exposed spots 70 mile per hour winds along coastal parts of southern England, the southwest and southwest Wales. But then this red warning that has just been issued by the Met Office as we've been monitoring how much Storm Goretti is deepening out in the Atlantic on its approach to the UK. This red warning, valid from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m, is where we're worried about the risk of 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts, dangerous conditions, danger to life warning, and the risk of flying debris, power cuts, damage to buildings. So best advice if you're in the red warning area, avoid travel, hunker down, stay indoors. The peak winds will last a few hours and it will blow through by tomorrow morning. It is not worth heading outside, taking a look at conditions. It's simply not worth it. These are extreme winds we're expecting, and we've not seen these kinds of winds in the west of Cornwall for some time. So please do stay safe, stay up to date with the latest warnings and messaging from the Met Office and from your local authorities. But yeah, I hope you do. Most of all, stay safe. Bye-bye.